Welcome to Who Knew. We are fans of the current series of Doctor Who, and here we discuss our likes, dislikes, and insights into the modern regeneration of the show. Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/WhoKnewPodcast. All our episodes are on WhoKnewPodcast.com. You can leave comments there, or email us at WhoKnewPodcast@gmail.com. We also have an Instagram and Twitter account. Tweet at us at WhoKnewPodcast, and find us on Facebook. Today we're taking a quick trip in the Tardis with Classic Who. Today's episode is Genesis of the Daleks. It's the fourth serial of the 12th season, and it's Tom Baker's third story as the new Doctor. Tom Baker plays the fourth Doctor, Sarah Jane Smith is played by Elizabeth Sladen, and Harry Sullivan is played by Ian Marter. This story is written by Terry Nation, directed by David Maloney. It originally aired between the 8th of March to the 12th of April 1975, and part 1 got the most views of 10.7 million viewers. Let's introduce ourselves.
Hello, this is Frank.
Hello, this is Auburn.
I'm Josh.
Hi, this is Brian.
And this is Eugene. The Doctor materializes in the middle of a battlefield where another Time Lord tells him that they need him for a special mission. The Daleks must be prevented from conquering the universe, so the Doctor is to stop their creation or alter them to be less aggressive. At the very least, he is to find a weakness they can use against them. The Time Lord tells the Doctor that this battlefield they're standing on is on Skaro before the creation of the Daleks, and gives him a time ring that will return him to the TARDIS once his mission is done. The Time Lord then disappears as Harry and Sarah Jane find the Doctor.
Very Mission Impossible-y.
I was going to say very Ingmar Bergman with the Seventh Seal.
Yeah, just that as well. But this is this something that used to happen more in more Classic Who, where he'd get an assignment
Every once in a while.
Well, yeah, it happens more often.
And I like how he's really annoyed with the Time Lord. He's really annoyed. The Time Lord mentions a Dalek, and now he's suddenly interested.
Oh, right.
He was like, the moment he says Dalek, the Doctor's on board.
He's like, do this thing. Daleks, I'm interested.
I also like the look of the Time Lord and how it kind of infers that most of the Time Lords look that way, so it makes the Doctor stand out, why he's different and why he'd be that way.
And at the time, the Time Lords were always portrayed as really old white men.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we saw that one in the Master's first appearance where he's like a banker looking.
Oh,
Yeah. They're always pushing that Gallifreyans are bureaucrats, entrenched society, very upper crust British. Everything is very proper, and that's why the Doctor left.
I will spoil a little bit here, where in the whole series there's no TARDIS. They mention the TARDIS. They talk about the TARDIS. TARDIS is an issue. Don't see it.
This is one of those times in the run, like 5 episodes or 5 stories, where you never see the TARDIS.
Yeah. Is there a reason behind that?
Just wasn't in the story.
No, but is that it?
This
Well,
season,
a lot of the times they did it to not have to build the interior set.
in this
I don't
season,
like
they had the whole season had a continuing story. So in the previous episode, the TARDIS is on space.
Yeah.
And they came down using the transmat
Oh,
beams.
this
to a
is right
planet.
after Ark in Space?
Not
bit.
exactly. So Ark in Space happens, which we did, and then there's 2 episodes, the Centauran Experiment, and then this, Genesis of the Daleks.
So they transmat down to Earth. They have the Centauran episodes. At the end of that, they're transmatting back up to the Ark to get the TARDIS, and this Time Lord grabs them in the transport.
Yes.
I see.
So
And,
that's,
and you know
All right,
how
well, then
dangerous that is?
There's a line, yes. Okay,
But-
now that makes more
you,
sense.
Yeah, but you can also just go from Ark in Space to this without those other 2 episodes.
And they do kind of like dump you in.
I will say, I really dug the way this opener was shot. I like...
Because it's film.
Yeah, it's on film. We've talked before how the exterior stuff is on film and then the interior stuff is on video. And usually the film stuff looks more crappy because it's not lit well and all this stuff. But this felt very accomplished, I thought, for for the most part. I don't know if the cameras, like the portable cameras of this, what year was this?
75.
75 to 70s were good. I mean, it might have been shot on what's called a Bolex 16 millimeter, but that in and of itself you can get a lot of versatility out of. So I was really disappointed when it went to video, because I since I'm not familiar with Classic Who, I wasn't expecting it. I thought, I guess it didn't even really occur to me. I just because it felt like a bigger adventure.
Yeah.
and then
It's also that they're still outside when it switches to video.
yeah, they are. But there was a reason I noticed. Oh, because
It was the trench.
It was a trench.
Yeah,
it was
so they
a
built
set.
that as a set.
Yeah.
But also, because it's filmed, this is the first time Doctor Who's used slow motion with those soldiers falling.
Oh, you're right.
I think if you're a new Who viewer, it's nice having the Time Lord there because you definitely get the feeling of the adversarial conflict where the Doctor just wants to go away, just wants to travel.
Right.
And you get, we let you do this and you have to do some stuff for us. Otherwise, you get the feeling that we can stop you at any point.
Back to the opening, I thought this, among the classic Who's we've watched, this felt like kind of closer to the modern sensibility of Doctor Who. Like I felt like I was almost watching a present day show. But and just the opening, like it got away from there pretty quick. But yeah, that film and the beautifully shot like wartime footage.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get into it a little more, but it reminds me of the Doctor's Daughter episode. They're just plopped in the middle of a battle.
Yeah.
And it just shows I think the arrogance of the Time Lords. And we always heard the Doctor say, there are fixed points in time. You don't want to change things. And here, you're going back to change the creation of the Daleks. So they're taking that attack onto the Daleks.
Yeah.
It's just like, whoa, that's different than what we're used to.
Almost like saying the Gallifreyans are hypocrites.
I didn't say that. Almost.
Well, that sort of comes up later when he has a big decision
it's just
to
like
make.
to me, it's like starts off going, okay, wait a minute, they're going to lose whatever war. They're saying no, the Daleks are this much of a threat. We're playing this card.
Right.
I guess I'll say it now. Russell actually likes to think of it. Genesis of the Daleks is the first battle of the Time War, and the Time Lords fired first. Which is an interesting... this has nothing to do with the Time War. They never thought of a Time War. It's just when Russell was writing his Time War, he was thinking back, and he thought, with this episode, you could say that was the first volley.
But they didn't really fire, or just the whole plot is firing.
Well, but the Doctor's trying to wipe the Daleks from existence.
That's it.
That's very Time Warsian.
Yeah.
But then I got you.
And loses. He doesn't do it.
Right.
But he would have.
So it's the Fort Sumter.
It's Pearl Harbor.
Oh, that was something.
Yeah, this is the
I know,
Time War.
Did you hear about that battle of Fort Sumter? That was really something. I'm here all week.
You've been working that nigh on 5 years.
This was a shot heard around the universe.
Right.
Was that the Boston Massacre?
Yeah, that was a revolution. Yeah, I was just having fun with
I know.
starts of wars.
History.
The three search the battlefield and discover that the weapons are an odd mix of newer and older technology. The Doctor believes that the war must have been going on for so long that the soldiers had to switch to older weapons as materials ran out. In a trench surrounding a domed city, they find dead soldiers propped up to give the appearance that it is protected. An attack starts, and soldiers in black uniforms carry the Doctor and Harry into a bunker, but leave an unconscious Sarah Jane behind, hidden under the dead soldiers, in that bright yellow jacket.
So this is the jarring thing that you're talking about. They switch from a location to a set.
It wasn't too bad, but
yeah, but it's noticeable.
It's noticeable.
Because you're like, these are rocks. I'm also in rocks, but they look different.
yeah. I will say this was the first. I've enjoyed all these classic Who's, but this is the first one that, despite the shortcomings of the production, it didn't take me out of it. Like all the only thing that did take me out of it, which I was actually just going to comment on, was like they got the space rifle that looks all spacey and 70s spacey, and then they just have
A musket.
Yeah. Which I get the dichotomy of that, but there's so much in this episode that is very earthbound. It wasn't like a musket-like gun. It was a musket from the same one that we had.
See, and I mean, they did that because it's like the BBC had a props warehouse.
Oh, absolutely.
And they just raided the props warehouse. And the writer just wrote in that line.
Yeah.
Which makes the shortcoming of not having a budget.
Yeah.
And not having to build all these props, but it makes it a really good plot point. It's like, wow, you've been around fighting for so long, you don't have ray guns anymore.
I mean, I even thought that. I thought it about the gas masks.
Yeah.
I thought it about
like those are World War I gas masks.
Yeah. I thought it about even the second in command baddie, his glasses. I thought,
Yeah,
like,
I do stare at
those
his
are
glasses.
very
70s.
glasses of the time,
Yeah.
Right.
And it just there was, and even the which we'll talk about, the Nazi-like uniforms, which
including the Iron Cross.
That was it. That was the clincher for me when he's wearing the Iron Cross.
But he's wearing it back. He's wearing it backwards, so you just see the back.
And it's only in the first episode.
Oh, is it only in the first episode?
First two.
Oh,
First two.
Yeah.
Anyway, there were a lot of things like that took me a little bit out of it, more so than some of the cheesy production values. Because this is the last statement I'm saying, is that because with the cheesy or the shortcoming of the production values, I find that they do really inventive ways to make up for it, and I get a big kick out of that.
To add to what you're saying about the guns and like raiding the warehouse or props department, yes, they have the ray guns, and then the foot soldiers have those muskets, which I associate with they're gonna die, they're cannon fodder, so just give them something to just shoot. So when those soldiers come out of the bunker, they're carrying Sten guns, which are later than the musket. So to me, that my eternal logic goes: the higher officers get better guns. Like we'll give the people that are going to die, the foot soldiers, the old stuff.
On the Kaled side.
Yeah.
Because the Thals have ray guns.
Yeah, and then so that's why I like that when the people come out of the bunkers, they have machine guns as opposed to muskets, and I like that.
And before that point, I really like it that it's the Doctor who steps on a landmine. It's not Harry, who's bumbling. It's not Sarah because she's the girl. It's the Doctor does it, and
the way he does it is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, I've stepped on the landmine.
When you think about it, it's padding.
Yeah, because I take that as more of, we're going to set up the danger
Yeah.
that we're in the world. We're in a battlefield where there's mines to get to like civilization.
Yeah. And even the Doctor is kind of caught off guard in this situation.
Which would have been nice if they would have kept up with it. But
Yeah.
later, as it progresses, it's, we just cross over here, cross over there. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, you're forgetting this is a minefield, right?
Oh, and then I forgot about this, but what leads them into that trench with the bunker, they're being attacked. There's like the enemy is shooting over, and they're like, those are real pyrotechnics in the quarry. I was like, that's cool and impressive.
Yeah.
And they were like going off right over Sarah Jane's head. I was like,
very close to the actors. There was one line, I think they said it here, that eventually they'd be fighting with bows and arrows. And I happened to watch an episode of Peter Capaldi's season where they're back on Skaro, and they do have bows and arrows
Right.
there. And it's just happenstance that I watched both of these episodes so close together. But they did pay it off, I guess, 40 years later.
that's funny.
That's good.
Almost 50.
Was that the time of the Doctor?
It's the
Magician's
start of
Apprentice
Maisie's season. Yes, Magician's Apprentice, I think.
That's either part 1 or part 2. I don't remember the other.
I
the name of
just
the other
started
part.
that season, so I don't have the rest of it.
The Doctor and Harry are taken to General Raven of the Kaleds and learn of the ongoing war between the Thals and the Kaleds. There are also the Mutos, descendants of the Kaleds who have mutated from the chemical war weapons and tossed outside to keep the Kaled race pure. After a brief attempt at escape, they are caught by Security Commander Niter. The Doctor tells him that they are aliens from another world, but Niter replies that that is impossible. Their greatest scientist, Davros, has declared that there is no other life besides Skaro.
So before we even meet Davros, he's wrong.
I know this is earlier, but there's another Nazi-type clad commander in Empire Strikes Back, Commander Niter.
Nida. I have the action figure with an A.
Okay, well then I'm wrong.
We can look
Still,
it up.
hey, it's close enough. But this was around the time where, the original Star Wars was being put together and stuff. So obviously, 40, 50, 60, 30 years after World War II, it's becoming very nostalgic and poignant of that time. Just like when we were younger, the Vietnam was very prevalent. So,
The writers are writing what they know.
yeah.
And Terry Nation's making a warning.
Yeah, I mean, it was obvious. The whole thing is based on a master race
Yeah.
He's just making the warning with a sledgehammer.
and riding.
Even
pants.
the salute, they do the Nazi salute.
They do. I know it's just shy enough.
Yeah.
And, the way they click their heels and the Sieg Heil, but it was just different enough. It's very. And I think
Also, but the added thing for us as Americans, because we grew up with so many movies where the Nazis were played by British actors.
Oh.
And all the imperial
Yeah,
officers
are
are British actors.
Yeah.
So it's like in an American brain, sometimes you can hear that accent and go, Nazi.
I do think it stands out a little bit more to us now because it's become such a trope. Between Star Wars and Nazi and this, that, and the other, and it's been so long. But I think watching this in 1975 would have had a lot more poignancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30 years from now, they're going to be writing villains with tiki torches.
Exactly. Weren't those Nazis as well, though?
Yeah, but that's their Nazis.
Aryan
Right,
Nazis.
right. I like tiki torches. I'm bringing back the tiki torch. I'm not going to let Nazis ruin tiki torches. Nazis have not ruined enough in the world.
They ruined
Drawing
all
a
the-
line right here.
They ruined all the Roman imagery, and
Right.
they're not going to take our
Not gonna
tiki
take our
culture away.
They ruined riding pants. I can't wear my riding pants anymore.
Or my knee-high boots.
Right.
Those are just gathering dust.
I won't even drink a grape knee-high anymore.
Here, I like when the doctor empties his pockets like, we're going to be here a long time.
Oh, that was a great scene.
And you see the yo-yo from the Ark in Space.
Oh, I didn't notice that, yeah. But as soon as he started emptying his pockets, I'm like, oh, this is going to be funny.
I liked how he disarmed the general.
Yeah.
So you moving all your, he picks up the pointer. It's like you're moving all your, people from over here, and whack, knocks the gun out of his hand.
Oh, that's right.
And then he asks us if he's okay, right?
Yeah, I kind of hit you hard. Is that okay?
Yeah.
One thing about this whole run of the episodes and all the classic Who, whenever they do real actiony stuff, they're always just sort of standing up straight. Like when he does whack his hand, he's just like, meh. When they're running later on episodes, they're running down the hall, they're running in there, they're just kind of like doot-dee-doot-dee-doot-dee-doo, like just like going to their mark. There's no sense of urgency in
Because the
any of
hallway's
their
only
body
5
line.
feet long, and they have to
Right.
make it look
They
a little
can't
longer.
run.
The only time there's any sort of like body work, I guess you'd call it, is when they're coming around a corner faking that they were being pushed.
Right.
There's always that like extra step, like, like, oh, stop, I'm being pushed, I'm a prisoner.
Or they see something and have to stop and then go back around the corner again.
Right. Oh, that's
Oh,
yeah.
there's a lot of
But
that.
And you showed me last night about the forced perspective in the hallway.
To make the hallways look
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't
longer.
notice. I didn't
They're
notice.
Actually going down
Yep.
smaller.
Oh yeah.
And Tom
so-
Baker is a very tall man.
It comes around, it's like it almost hits the top, and then it gets closer, it gets
funny.
farther away from the ceiling.
It's very inventive, the way they did that.
I want to talk about the placement of the locations in this.
Can I say one thing because it's kind of along the same lines? Did you also notice, Eugene? You probably did, but at one point when they're being chased down the hallway by the guards fire at them. That one of the extras, his gun doesn't fire.
Yeah.
It
I
doesn't.
I
And
noticed
you can
that.
see the extra like.
He's like,
It's not firing. Are you going to call cut? Oh, I guess we're just. I'm going to get up and run now. Yeah.
I want to talk about the locations and the settings because I found that a little bit confusing when you first watch it. So there's basically 3 sets. There's the Thal Dome City, the Kaled Dome City, and also the Kaleds have a bunker which has the elite. So I guess we can call it the elite bunker, which are the scientific and military who are working with Davros. So right now they're in. Are they in the
bunker.
The bunker,
Yeah,
yes.
they're in the bunker.
Because they just got
And
captured.
technically the trench is around the bunker.
I didn't know if the
And
trench and the
bunker's
bunker
under-
were around the city or not. It's like one of those.
I mean, we
Yeah.
know that the trench is around
Trenches
the
are
bunker.
with the bunker.
the
Definitely.
bunker's sitting in his chair, which is now in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, stifle.
Right. Sorry.
But that always just confused me. It's like, what the?
I think-
Archie Bunker.
I
missed
agree.
that one.
I got confused when Sarah, by the time she gets to the Thal
Right.
Dome, I'm like, wait, are they're not together? But
Yeah.
yes, that's-
But also later on, they talk to the council who is in the city, but then the council comes to talk to him at the bunker. But it's pretty much cut instantaneously that they can get there when you know it has to take time. So
Remember-
that just throws me
Well,
off.
yeah,
about how
also
long it takes to
Characters
get
travel
there.
at the speed of plot.
It turns into an episode of 24, like going from Van Nuys
Exactly.
to Burbank. Because at first, it takes them that long to go across the minefield and all that stuff, and then at a certain point, they're hopping back and forth.
Sarah wakes up but cannot open the bunker door. She wanders about, watched by the Mutos, and peers inside a derelict structure to see Davros, an odd old man in a type of wheelchair. She watches as he activates a lone Dalek and orders it to exterminate paper targets. With the firing tests complete, Davros leaves. Sarah is captured by the Mutos, who in turn are captured by the Thals. They are to be used as slaves loading a rocket with radioactive chemical weapons. Sarah convinces the other captives to attempt a breakout, but is unsuccessful, with many of them dying.
Do you think it was unsuccessful because that was shot on film?
I liked how that was shot.
I know. I'm just saying that there was another
Yeah.
section where, and I thought, I was wondering why, and then I saw the camera move like up, so probably why, because they're probably using TV cameras for the other stuff, which are these huge machines that are on wheels.
But I like that it's how do I put this? The film capturing-ness of the image, it makes the black background really stand out, and it makes the rocket look like it's enormous. And it reminds me of like Fritz Lang and Terry Gilliam, where they'd use that darkness to their advantage.
the scaffolding looked like it was only 10 feet tall, but they had to keep going over and over the same spot trying to climb it.
Right.
But I am impressed with Elizabeth Sladen's climbing skills.
Yeah.
Because she's like,
She's doing it.
how did you reach that? Oh my God.
Well, she only
that looked
weighed
painful.
about 20 pounds. Oh, even when she fell? Or when
No,
she...
when
when
she's
she-
when she's climbing up, it's like she's putting her foot up like right next to her face to reach the. I mean, I
She's
thought it was-
limber.
She's limber. I thought it was very impressive.
And then I thought that who's shooting at them? The Thals?
Falls.
Some of them had stormtrooper aim.
Yes, and they're all dressed like the Riddler.
Yeah,
I like that the Thals were green.
green. Yeah, that's how you
Yeah.
know they're different from the Kaleds.
Yeah. Is this where we first see Davros?
Yes.
Because that was kind of disappointing, right?
This
Really?
is the
You
first
think
time we
so?
see him in the whole entire series?
Yeah. I thought it was good. What do you
I
think?
You're
think-
supposed to go, what is
Yes.
going on?
And I think only because I've seen some of the more modern makeup that was like really
Oh,
good.
His look.
Yeah.
Oh, see, because I don't think he looks that bad.
Yeah.
Was he talking here? Because that was the first time
little
when he
bit.
was talking, and I couldn't tell that he was talking because we weren't close enough to see
Yeah.
just that mouth move yet.
Gotcha.
I think for the time that the mask and makeup was very good.
No, as soon as we got closer, I really liked it, but I just remember whatever it was, that first shot seemed too far away
Yeah.
to like read that was where that was the character that was talking.
I like that scene because he's mysterious and you don't know what's going on. And in the commentary on the DVD, Elizabeth Sladen says that when she was there on set, that was like not acting because she was like,
Oh.
what is that? That's kind of creepy. And then to me, that only punctuates it more when she sees Davros again in Stolen Earth and Journey's End. And that's why she has that terrified look. I'm like, I thought he died.
And it helps me. I mean, it's one of those things where when you're watching The Stolen Earth, they didn't need to take the time for Sarah to say, that's right, remember me, I remember you. But they earned it because she's the very first person to see Davros in Doctor Who. So it's like, yeah, Sarah's got to say something about Davros.
And the Daleks have been in prior seasons.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we did find out that Sarah Jane has seen Daleks before. She saw the Daleks with the third Doctor.
And so this is our first time as viewers seeing Davros. Is this the last time Sarah Jane sees Davros before the new series?
Correct.
Okay, so one and only time. Okay.
Because she departs the show, and then Davros comes back when she's not the
Okay.
companion.
Because that was Joe in
That
that
too,
other
yeah.
one. Is that her name?
You're talking about Ace with the baseball bat. That's
Is that the one where the kids at school?
yes.
Okay, Ace.
They kept saying that the Kaleds wanted to be pure, and that's why they put the mutants out way back when with the chemical deformities.
Yeah.
And I kept thinking, Davros doesn't look like a normal Kaled. Why is he around?
Yeah, so is he a Kaled?
But, Brian was saying it's like people want to keep power. And so
A brilliant
certain
mind.
people like Hitler would not live up to his Aryan perfection.
Well, yeah, that's for sure.
So
it's just
that's partly
power.
that. And also wondering, how old is Davros? I mean, could it be that he's not mutated? He's, in
He's
that kind of
old.
way with the chemical. But he's, 232. It's just...
And also remember, these people aren't human. They're Kaleds, and their end of their evolution is a spindly little creature. So he could be just 200 years old and a Kaled.
But at first, it just kept throwing me going, if they want to keep it so pure, why are they listening to this?
And again, I was
Yeah.
going, well, that's a really good Hitler reference.
And something I wrote down is that the Kaleds, what you were mentioning about being affected by the chemical warfare that they used, there's a line that says they were used in the first century of the war.
Yeah.
So this war has just been going on forever.
It's 1,000 years,
the
I think they
first-
said.
yeah.
Oh,
later,
did they-
later on, they do confirm it's been 1,000 years.
Yeah. So in the first years of the war is when they
That's a
created the
long time.
Mutos.
That's why they didn't seem very mutants
Just
at all.
No, I know.
just the way they were
They have a
dressed.
scar.
Well, they did say there were varying levels because some you didn't see
Right.
their faces. That one guy who gets shot early on, he had some crazy teeth.
But none of the people that we actually saw looked some
Right.
kind of weird mutation.
They spent all the makeup money on Davros.
There's no arm coming out of their cheek or anything like that.
Right.
They said that, and I think it's in the commentary, that they wore these big fur types of clothing to cover up the mutations.
Yeah.
So it's all underneath.
Sarah Jane's supposed to be this progressive woman type. She sure gets knocked.
Yes,
Woman
woman
type.
type.
Well, when I say type, I mean like type of character.
She is a carbon-based unit.
she sure gets knocked out a lot. She sure is scared of everything a lot. If, she'll do something. She questions things a lot. And then this one guy the Muto who befriends her, he's not as mutated, so they could tell that could be a sign that he's not as aggressive. But at the same time, the main reason he didn't want to hurt her was because she's so beautiful. So there's a lot of conflicting points of view here where it's like, yeah, that feminism thing, that's a really good idea. Let's sprinkle some of that in there. This must be what it's about. So it's like feminism from a 1970s male point of view.
From a 1970s point of view.
Yeah, but I'm sure the women in the 1970s felt like they were more powerful than they were being looked upon as.
But in the 70s, it did change to be a little bit more blatant. And I don't know if this is kind of trying to balance between selling a TV show and having everybody like it and making that statement.
I think it's a sign of that. I don't think it's bad writing at all. It just, in this day and age, looking back on the show, I was like, it was apparent to me.
But I think it's funny because Harry plays the damsel in distress trope. He's the one who gets into trouble. He's the one who's always scared because he's asked.
He says to her,
at one point,
"Are you scared?
Are you scared?" She goes, "No." "Are you?" "Yes."
I am.
It's not just being scared, but she usually overcomes it or does something with it. So I think on this one, it's odd because Harry plays more of that role than she does.
No, you're right. Harry's a little bit more of a. He's sometimes a dunce. She's never a dunce. She's a good character.
And she rallies the resistance.
And in a way too, it's just she's a person. She has weaknesses and strengths and stuff. I just find it nowadays they're trying sometimes. A show will try to prove a point that men and women are equal, meaning they're the same. So the woman parts are exactly the way the men's parts are exactly the way the woman's parts are. That is parts in the script. Not
she is still female and he is still male, so there's still some of that there.
Whereas it does color it a little bit more. There's no reason this mutant wouldn't find her beautiful. This, that, the other. It's just an observation I found interesting.
But I think they also don't want to make her that Mary Sue type of character.
Right.
Because she does lead the resistance, and she does almost get them out, but then she has them all killed, basically, when they're trying to escape.
Right, yeah.
And she is afraid of the heights, and because when they're trying to get out on the top of the rocket, she has to jump that 1.5 feet. I mean, it really was not a big jump, but for somebody who is scared of heights, that's a long way down.
Oh, I'd have been terrified. I don't think I would have been able to make it.
Did she mention that she's scared of heights? Or
no, I'm just thinking she looked terrified, which is good for her.
I did find it funny that guy totally takes a leap, and then she just steps over. What was he doing?
But here they have Sarah falls off the scaffolding at one point, and that's the cliffhanger for one episode to the next episode, and she's falling outside it, and then she falls into it somehow.
That was such a cheat.
She could have grabbed onto it and fell. I mean,
That's the first time they used a freeze frame in Doctor Who.
For the
cliffhanger of part 2, I believe.
Because that was shot on film.
Yes, again, film.
I have to say, the whole scaffolding chase for a kid's show was actually kind of gruesome. People falling, and one of those bodies, I don't know if it was a
dummy?
model dummy, but it
fell.
It looked good.
Well, the Kaled guy, he's dead on the floor and his eyes are open.
Yeah.
And in an odd position. It just looked painful.
Like, ooh.
Yeah. Was it still, at this point, was it still focused on children?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just different in Britain.
Yeah.
I like the scene where they're tormenting Sarah. It was like you have to cross back over when they capture them. And he kind of pushes her off and holds her, dangling all the way up. It's like, it's terrible, but he's evil. And that was done, I think, well. I could just let go and you die.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that because it showed that the Thals were bad, too. There's no good guys.
No, that's why I did like that scene. But I don't understand, after killing all of their workers, why did they keep these two? Why not just kill them and grab new ones?
Because they're going to bring in a bunch of kids later to do the last half hour work.
All of the cliffhangers are resolved very quickly, and they all seem like they're built just to be cliffhangers. Mm-hmm. Like the whole point of this scaffolding chase was to get a cliffhanger with Sarah Jane falling.
I also found it funny that they're shooting at the rocket that is a weapon. Like, aren't you worried about damaging that or potentially exploding it or something?
And maybe I just realized this. Were the Kaleds the only ones who had ammo shortages? Was the Thals, they had plenty of bullets to do this?
I mean, I kind of think that's both sides, but I don't
They probably
remember.
had different shortages.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought so. At the time, I remember thinking not only are they shooting at the rocket,
Yeah.
but they're wasting all of these
Yeah.
bullets.
Well, but they had zap guns. They didn't
Did
have
they?
muskets.
Oh, okay.
They had yellow
Did they?
plexiglass.
Because I thought
I thought they were shooting bullet guns.
Is it a different point when the Thals have those?
I think
guns?
that's later when you get into the city.
But either way, the
Yeah.
ammo being short, like
Yeah.
they forgot about that as
Right.
the series
Again,
goes on.
what the plot needs
Yes.
is what the plot gets. That reminded me of the earlier scene with, I think it's Raven, where he says, capture these prisoners or whatever and execute them at dawn, or just execute them, but don't waste a bullet. Hang them. I was like, that is gruesome.
Oh, I thought when he said that was more of like they're not worth a bullet, but he actually meant
Save your
Save
bullet.
save your ammo.
Yeah. It could be that too, though.
But sir, we're running out of rope.
I liked the one Khaled officer who had the longer hair, not the one with the glasses.
Is that Niter?
Possibly, I think so. He's the first one they encountered. Yes.
That's the general.
That's
Niter
Raven.
has the glasses.
Raven doesn't have
like
glasses.
I liked how there was a number of times where he started to get really over the top, like you know,
Yeah.
your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader, and the Doctor would just cut him off and interrupt him in his
Yeah.
escalation of his rant. I thought that was really funny.
Meanwhile, at the Khaled bunker, the time ring is confiscated, and the Doctor and Harry are brought to a senior researcher named Ronson, who discovers they are true aliens. Davros arrives with a Mark III traveling machine, which is really a Dalek. Davros has been experimenting with Khaled physiology and has determined their best evolutionary form, but it will need help to be mobile, hence the Mark III. Davros makes the Dalek fully independent, and it identifies the Doctor and Harry as non-Kaleds who must be exterminated. Ronson intervenes, saying that he must interrogate the prisoners. Davros reluctantly agrees and gives him until morning. There's the scene where they install the weapon on the Dalek. I was like, that's good editing, because you can tell that that is not the next shot where it's moving. It's like that was not happening
Well, I kind of
live.
thought he was like, handing it to the guy in there, like, yeah, here you go, Charlie. You got that? You got the hand?
Yeah, go to things.
I think the idea of the evolution of the Kaleds to this like final form is also kind of a 70s scientific understanding. And maybe like not that scientists at the time had different understanding, but I think the pop culture of science was different, where today I think we understand like evolution isn't running to like a final thing. It's just a process that continues.
Yeah.
And so the idea that, oh, well, if evolution played out for the Khaled people, they'd end up as whatever they're inside the Daleks.
Also, somebody needs to teach Davros the definition of the word best.
Right.
Yeah.
Because this is the best evolution we're going to have. Have you seen them?
And I love how everyone is just like, okay, we'll go with that. And
It looks like a Harry.
Also, too, that they're planning for the eventual evolution of their race, which will be millions of years from now.
Maybe not. Maybe the Kaleds evolve quicker.
Okay, all right, no.
Also,
that's
this
true.
is a desperate people, and
Right.
they
Yeah.
know they
think-
can't go on.
That's thinking ahead.
They could be.
Well, they're rushing the evolution so that they can win the war.
Right, but they're not going to be around for when this supposedly they won't be around.
But that's what Davros was fixing.
Yeah.
Davros went, in a million years, we're going to look like this. I'm going to do it now. And so it was their answer to the war.
So, but what happens to the citizens that are alive now?
They stay the way they are, but they're going to have these descendant
I see.
Daleks to help them.
Okay.
Because they figure their advanced state would be the evolution. And that
Right.
would give them the edge because nothing else has worked. But then Davros goes a little bit different, where it's just more of a mutation the way he wants it rather than
Right.
what the evolutionary
Is it-
track would be.
Yeah, he
Right.
cuts out the morality and the conscience, which all of these Kaleds seem to have in abundance.
And it's a warped view of evolution because evolution itself deals with the environment. So the environment can't possibly be predicted 100%. That's what natural selection is. So if the environment changes, the evolution changes. So
It's a reactive thing, not a proactive.
right. Yes, exactly.
I had a similar issue with an episode of Voyager. Hopefully somebody can help me
Oh my
remember.
God, we're not
Yes.
talking about that episode.
Where Catherine Janeway and Tom Paris both evolve into
salamanders and have little
yes.
salamander babies.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that never happened.
All right.
Considered possibly the worst episode of any Star Trek ever.
And that's why the understanding of of evolution. Maybe it hasn't changed that much to pop culture, science
I
fiction.
think the title of the episode is Evolution, I think.
Probably.
Yeah. And why does this happen? Because he goes warp 10. Oh, God.
Well, it's like, radioactive spider gives somebody superpowers or gamma rays. Overloading on gamma rays will be so on and so forth.
When Davros mentions the Mark III travel machine, that's a reference to the Panzer III, which is the most produced German armored fighting vehicle of World War II.
Well, I did like that they go into the scans, which gives them a whole body scan, and they tells me they find the time key, the time
ring.
Well, time ring.
Yeah, that wasn't.
But they're going through and getting their whole, physiological information. So that whole joke with the doctor. No, well, these scans are going to prove that you're actually a cow.
I noticed to us, the back of Dalros's chair looks like he's giving everybody the middle finger.
Yeah. If it was a cartoon finger.
Yeah.
I was kind of curious at first why he barely moved, but as the episode went on, and the way his arm was positioned, I took it to be like he's basically designing these Daleks to be just like him. Like, they don't move; they have a protruding arm in that position. So he basically was moving just like the Daleks were moving.
Yeah. Funny production behind the scenes story is that Tom Baker took some 2 kids to tour the set at this time, and then they saw Michael Wisher, who plays Davros, but he was so still that they thought it was like a stand-in prop. And then so when they got closer, he moved and they terrified everybody.
That's great.
Ronson confides to the Doctor and Harry that he and other Kaleds believe that what Davros is doing is evil and immoral. He shows the Doctor the ultimate Kaled, Davros' future for his race, and they are all shocked. Ronson knows the High Council would end Davros' experiments, but he's unable to reach them in the Dome City. The Doctor says he could talk to the Council if Ronson helps them escape, so he leads them to a tunnel through a ventilation shaft that will take him to the wastelands.
This is where there's a big clam.
That clam, I'm like, what is this doing here?
That was. I'm a little torn because that is the worst thing in this whole 6-episode arc. But at the same time, I loved it because it was so ridiculous.
But it was done.
Look out
it was
for that!
fun.
Look out for that rock on the ground! It's gonna get you.
But still, it's just...
Ironically, the odd part was the Doctor getting the rock and hitting the clam. Going, you're smarter than that. You need a fulcrum. It's like, oh, now he goes against it. They're better. What were you thinking? You don't press down on something that's cracked someone's leg. You want to open it up.
I looked up because, the Doctor pulls Harry's leg out. Harry stands up, says a phrase in Latin, and the Doctor goes, "What was that?" And Harry just says, "Latin." I looked it up, and he was saying giant clam in Latin.
We were watching that, and I said, "Yeah, did you say big clam?" And then you looked it up. I was
big
right.
clam.
I guessed right.
Before they get out there is a large creature that goes across the opening.
Yeah.
But then we've never see anything
They
like
only
that
had money
again.
for that one
yeah.
shot.
Do you know what that was? That a real animal or something
know.
else?
It
that
looked
they-
like a little bit.
I think it was like
Okay.
I think it was just blown up.
I don't think it was real. I think it was like a toy.
like that they just drug across.
Yeah.
And I put that as the wastelands are just so
Yeah, filled
weird
with
with
things.
all
Well,
kinds
and
of
this cave
creatures.
was full of Davros's creation.
Experiments.
Yeah.
Rejects.
The rejects,
And the
yeah,
most
exactly.
dangerous thing they ran into was that clam.
Which was
Hey,
stationary.
a clam that can move. No, the clam moved. It wiggled away.
That clam comes after
It
them later.
moved pretty fast for a clam. It moved fast for a lot of people.
Sponges migrated about 1.5 inches.
This is the clam pushed to its evolutionary limit, where they're really quick.
And they apparently crave flesh.
Right.
And the pearls they produce, oh my.
All
That's
that
all
wisdom.
the-
It's Dalekanium.
Yeah, that's
a
what it
little
is. That's where it came
spears
from.
on
Maybe that's where the
side.
balls come from.
Later, the Doctor and Harry tell the Council what is going on. The Council calls for an investigation, and in the meantime, they will put a halt to all experiments. Davros finds this out and knows Ronson assisted them, so he plans a trap for him. General Raven tells the Doctor that a woman prisoner in the Thal City led a revolt. He also tells them about the rocket, but is unconcerned. The Kaleds dome was reinforced and able to withstand the impact. Knowing where Sarah Jane is, Raven shows the Doctor and Harry how to get to the Thal dome.
So that was a big surprise to me, or was I not paying attention that Raven was on their side? Raven was one of the conspirators.
If the council agrees that these two people are friendly or allies, he's fine with that. If the council would determine
Right.
that these people were enemies, he would fight them.
I guess
so. He's
maybe-
not a good or bad. He's, in young
Right.
and being in his position of general.
And maybe it wasn't all that clear to me while it was happening that that's what was happening politically. For all maybe I was getting a little tired. I don't quite remember, but all of a sudden he's like their friend. He's on their side, and I was a little confused.
All right. No, because they don't say it. You just have to kind of pick it up.
That's just it.
They were strangers before, and he's treating them, to do his job right and being strong,
Right.
general. And then, okay, they've talked to the council. The council, they're now allies.
I think what happens is because when they were talking, sometimes some of these important conversations are acted so casually.
Yes.
That
Yes.
it's almost just like, well, I left the keys in the car. You can go out, and if you need to go get milk, go get milk. And then they leave, and they're like,
And the
wait,
bomb's on the front door.
Yeah, was that an important conversation? Because quite possibly these older actors don't even know what they're saying. It's just
It
sci-fi.
was right before lunch.
Yeah, maybe it's just sci-fi gobbledygook.
Right after lunch. Made a 3 martini
it's
lunch.
just sci-fi gobbledygook, and they just say it well enough, and I think that maybe something happens in the interpretation, and it doesn't visually get the importance
Gotcha, yeah.
of the words themselves.
I said that on other classic Who's.
But if it was filmed after lunch, that would be Ark in Space, where everybody's sleepy coming out of cryogenics.
Oh, right.
After learning of the Council's decision, Davros tells Niter to place 20 of the mutated experiments into the Dalek machines. Niter worries that they are unstable, but Davros says that he will keep partial control over them. They head to a secret meeting in the Thal Dome, where Davros says he wants peace, but the Kaled Council wants to annihilate the Thal race. He gives the Thals a chemical compound that will weaken the Kaled Dome, allowing the rocket to demolish the city. In return, he wants to help in the rebuilding of Skaro. Having reached the dome, the Doctor and Harry overheard the entire conversation through the cat door.
I know. What is that doing there in the door?
Well, you've seen what Daleks looks like outside their shells. That's how they get in and out.
But they don't know about the Daleks yet.
I
It's just
like
weird.
Harry in this story arc.
He's a little stronger.
Yeah.
He's not doing much. He doesn't have much personality, but in Ark in Space, I did not like him. He was just this dunce who I guess was there for comedic effect, but it wasn't funny.
And this is the third story together.
Is it?
So
Yeah.
it's like, wow.
I don't know. I just feel like he's more of a
Presence.
solid presence.
Yeah.
He doesn't have much going on though.
He's not the male
Ryan said
chauvinist.
When they were going to get this new doctor, they were planning to have an older man. So they wanted the younger one to run around with Sarah to do a lot of the physical
Yeah.
action shots. But now having Tom Baker, he could do a lot of his own. So they didn't know how to write Harry. So I think it took them a while to figure out who this
Who he
character is
is.
going to be and how they can have both him and Sarah work together.
That's funny because it makes me think, like, why didn't they separate the Doctor with Sarah Jane and Harry on his own so he could do all the scaffolding climbing and all that?
Because it was the 70s and they're giving Sarah more of a
Yeah.
feminist role.
I'm just saying from what you're
Yeah.
talking about, like with the more action stuff, like
Yeah.
that seemed like something that they should have given Harry.
Right.
Also, too, I don't know too much about Harry's backstory or whatever, but Sarah was a reporter from the beginning of her stuff. Yeah, so
Journalist.
Journalist.
And Harry was a unit medical Royal Navy doctor.
Right. So Sarah already has this, I don't want to say conflict, but in her story and her personality, she starts off overcoming odds, like infiltrating and all that stuff, whereas Harry has no emotional confliction within him. He's a doctor and he knows some stuff. He was a little chauvinistic in the beginning. So there's no emotional or psychological obstacle for him. He just does things. Whereas Sarah's sort of fighting against things in her way, whether they're emotional or not.
He's not the investigator. He's the one who's just there.
Well, whether or not, like, if we look ahead to someone like Rory, he's in love with Amy and she treats him like crap. But he'll do everything for her. So there's some conflict within him besides just the environment. Harry's got nothing. He's our conduit. I think Harry is basically us.
The surrogate.
Yeah.
for us.
Surrogate. That's the word I was looking for earlier. Thank you.
I think Davros is a really good villain. And he is playing on what people want to hear and telling them what they want to hear, and manipulating it off for whatever he wants to gain.
Because I was even watching thinking, like, what's his plan?
But, I mean, him going in there and talking to the Thals and
Let's have
selling
an
it.
investigation, but only for a week. And you can't talk to all these people. Don't talk to the Thals.
I think it is interesting that Davros's goals are not the same as the Kaleds' goals are
Right.
not the same as whatever state the Kaleds have set up. Like, it seems like a very absolute state where Davros was already in charge of everything. He was their supreme commander, right? Like,
He was in
didn't they
charge of
mention
everything that
Military,
we dealt
right?
with in the episode.
Yeah, I think it was
Okay. We
don't really
military
see
and
the city.
science because they keep referring to him as he's not an officer.
Right.
Because there is a higher position that
Okay.
he reports to.
But he was the height of the
Dr. Mengele.
elite. He was the
Yeah.
commander of the elite,
Yes.
both military and scientific. But then there is the city,
And if-
which has the council
Okay.
running the.
Yeah.
Because
you
he
know,
does
everyday-
have a lot of power.
Right.
And even
Yes.
with
Yeah.
that, he is willing to sacrifice his people, quotes, for more power and for his own purposes.
And with all this that's going on and the way he's manipulating everybody, you don't really get what he's trying to get at. You know his end goal is to keep the Daleks. Mm-hmm. But you don't know all the pieces he's putting into place to try and make that happen.
Right.
So I kind of liked, well, it's like I know what he's saying is false, but I don't know why he's doing that.
Yeah,
It's like,
you know
what-
he's playing chess with
Right.
all of these pieces
Yeah.
getting into place.
Yeah, I will say when I first watched this, it was very confusing. Like,
Yes.
what is this guy's end goal? And then you watch it again, and you're like, wow, he's really, really conniving. So yeah, he is a great villain.
A lot of people are saying nowadays in 2018 about our government, how can this happen? How did this happen? How could it's obvious how it happened. They've been writing stories about it since, before the 70s. Like, this is something that happens. It's not new. It's just happening again. And when things are going to be better, people won't pay attention because things are better, and then it'll happen again. It's just going to keep happening. If the Doctor Who writers, as great as they are, can come up with it for a story about robots. But back to the show, with what you're saying about how manipulative Davros is, I think who's the actor?
Michael Wisher.
I thought he was great because when you look at that prosthetic on his face, it's a mask. All you see is his mouth. So everything that he's doing is through his voice, and he's not even moving.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's great.
He does emote well.
Yeah, and it's not like is it the same actor later
No.
on?
Okay, every time they've casted somebody in Davros, we were talking earlier, that actor does a phenomenal job because this guy, Michael Wisher, they wanted him back, but then they couldn't because of scheduling conflicts. But then everybody since then has pretty much done an
Just an
excellent
impression of this
job.
guy.
Yeah.
But they all do great jobs. But I think because I think of the Journey's End, he was much more expressive. The prosthetics reacted to his face.
Yeah.
He moved around a lot. This guy barely moves, and you don't see his face except for his mouth. So, but never once did I feel it was a stilted performance, and I thought it was great. I do think it's really funny when the radiation level from safe to toxic
I wrote that down.
is like they couldn't have just got a little crank something to make it go evenly. There's some guy in there who can't move it
But
well.
also to have it safe.
Safe and toxic.
Safe, bad.
The Doctor and Harry put on radiation suits and enter the rocket silo where they reunite with Sarah Jane. They free the slaves and the Doctor sends Harry, Sarah, and her new Muto friend Severin to the Kaled Dome to warn them about Davros's betrayal. The Doctor stays behind to sabotage the rocket, but is caught and zapped with enough electricity to knock him out. So this is the end of part 3, and we have the cliffhanger of the Doctor being zapped with that...
If they were to electrocute the fence that holds the scaffolding, why didn't they do that with them trying to escape?
Because they wanted to waste bullets.
Okay, we have too many
I don't
bullets.
have an answer. Yeah. And that wasn't one of Davros's buttons, right? That was like a button that a guard hit on the wall.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
this is-
Yeah.
Which the button is actually along the baseboard next to the floor. Which,
Oh yeah.
which would be annihilated when the rocket took off.
But it gets me that it's on the floor. You have to crawl to it. It's like, why not put it higher?
This is the same planet where they put a safe for a man in a wheelchair high on the wall.
Where I have to reach somebody who's tall.
Well, I would say that the Thals also evolutionary become what the Daleks, and then so they were planning ahead.
Okay. I did like when they got the radiation suits. They went up to the two people who were in them because they knocked out the two guards. But his line, "Excuse me, can you help me? I'm a spy." I just love it. That's the Doctor.
The Doctor awaits in the Thal command room and watches as the Kaled Dome is bombed with the chemicals to weaken it. That attack is followed by the rocket, which destroys the dome, and the Doctor believes Sarah and Harry as well. The Thal leader declares victory and frees all the prisoners. because that's what we need the plot to do.
I like the model of the dome slowly collapsing, because it's slowly collapsing. It's not like just a poof and then it's gone. I like that it took time.
I like it's a bad effect, but they used it for
Yes.
all it's worth. They kept going back to it and was like, all right, I'm kind of impressed. You took the model all the way to its end.
And sometimes, it's not like close up like the Ark in Space, where those models look like models. And it was like close up. It was always like on a monitor or something further in the background. And I don't know how to explain it, but like the Ark in Space arc, when that was on screen, I was like, that is horrible. Where when you saw this dome collapsing, it was like on a monitor further back. It was a little bit more acceptable because you weren't focused on it.
Even though the dome looked really fake, it wasn't featured.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Right.
They used it better.
All the low rent things about this episode were done really well, considering they were low rent. They didn't let it go. Mm-hmm. They really made a point to hide it.
And also, I think they slowed down the footage because they shot it on film.
I think so.
And I'm like, that helps as opposed to like
the fire
video.
was slowed down a little bit.
So that it made you think that like the dome is collapsing as opposed to a model.
And they
fall.
can put that film blue screened in
better
to a
than
monitor.
video. Yeah.
or optically printed, however they did it.
This is the scene where the Thal leader says, "We've been at war for 1,000 years," to confirm the time frame.
The Kaled scientists in the bunker are shocked and wonder how the Thals knew how to destroy the dome. Davros says it is because of the traitor Ronson and has the Daleks kill him. He tells the scientists that the Kaleds are dead and the Daleks are now the supreme creature and ultimate conqueror of the universe. He orders Garmin to make final changes to the Dalek mutations, but Garmin is worried that these genetic changes will remove morality and conscience from them. Davros sends the Daleks to exterminate the Thal people.
I really like this plot point, and I really like that character. What's his name?
Garmin.
The quick and casualness that he has with like, oh, okay, well, these mutations aren't all adding up. It's just like your long division. You didn't carry the remainder there. It's like he's that well versed in genetic mutation and advancement.
He's the elite scientist.
Yeah, but he wasn't. He was more of a soldier.
He was more of the military, but
Okay, but after 1,000 years, science and military would have merged.
Okay, that I get.
no, the military wore black, the scientists
That's
wore
right.
white. You could tell them right away.
And that's why it caught me, because if he was wearing white, if he was more of a scientist, I would have thought, oh, this guy, this is what his whole life's about. But it was just like, what is the whole Kaled race? In grammar school, they start learning about genetic manipulation.
You're right. I retract my
Could be.
mocking.
I like the script. I think the actor was actually very good, and I thought that the script was very clear. Like, I didn't miss a beat in listening to it. I just found it funny that he's just like, it's just funny to me.
And at this point, when Ronson dies, it's just funny how he's falling over.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just fall out of screen because it's not
I want to
great.
see the unaltered footage. It must have been hysterical to watch these deaths being filmed.
And then when they were lying in a pile of guys, it was like, oh, yeah, whose head gets put on whose butt?
But I wanted to point out too that, well, this happened before, but this is the first time that we get a laser effect on the Daleks shooting from the weapon, because before it would go to negative and that fake flame would pop out of the barrel. Now we finally get the laser beam.
And is there something else physically like opening up
Yeah.
with those
So
things?
it looks like the whisk, right?
Yeah.
And then there's these two like flame things that go out. It's 3 or 4, but they come out like this, and then the laser is inputted.
Yeah.
It's almost
And
like it's been
those are
exploded out.
practical.
It's like a flower blooming.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't do that today.
You ever have the
in
blooming
modern
laser
hero.
at
Okay.
Outback Steakhouse?
Yeah, I heard
Really
it's
good.
awesome.
Too
Awesome
fiery for me.
Has a lot of kick.
But yeah, I just noticed that it was an interesting, like almost organic, like feeling that the current Daleks don't have. They're much more mechanical.
And then, of course, we get that traditional negative effect,
Yeah, I like how it started.
which hid the death acting.
The Daleks have always done that,
Yes.
right? Like that has been the trademark Dalek weapon.
That must have been really fun in the new series when they figured out what they wanted to do with that effect.
Yeah, and I like that it's isolated just to the person as
person.
opposed to the whole
Yeah.
screen.
I really enjoyed how the Daleks look exactly 95% the same
Yeah.
than they do today. I mean, I was looking to see what little differences they were. And of course, the pieces of them aren't fabricated, for the prop and stuff like that. You could see the paint and things like that. But all the shapes were all there. And like I said, 95% the same. I really got a kick out of that.
It's one of those things, they're better looking than they were when they first started.
Right.
But they're supposed to be the prototypes.
Right.
So they shouldn't be looking as good.
That's a good point.
It's
Yet
one of
it
those
is
things.
amazing
it's like,
how many
we-
things are the same.
But we want you to make it look good now. A lot of things have that now that we're going back to a lot of prequels.
Yeah.
Where it's like, well, we have other technology, but we want to make it better looking with our new technology that we actually
Yeah.
have when we make it.
I was surprised by the eye stock because the eye stock has the layers of plastic.
Right, yeah, in the same exact shape.
And they're and we were watching a repeat episode of the modern show, and the Daleks have the same exact cut plastic shapes on their eye stock.
I think the biggest difference is the ear things, or the antenna, if you want to call them. I think
lights?
the lights on top in this show were very small, whereas now they're
I
taller.
think they're more rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
well, they look
classic.
more like nubs.
Yeah.
During this part, we meet a new character, Betten, and she's Thal, and she shows some compassion to the doctor, going, "Oh, did you know people in the city?" And his friends were there, and saying, "Now it's up to me, just alone, to stop Davros." She's saying, "Well, you're not gonna find any Thals to help you because to us, he's our savior. He helped end the war." And watching it this time because of this podcast, I was looking at her, going, "Is she going to be a new companion?"
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
Sarah and Harry are both dead, according to the doctor. And seeing somebody who is competent and then also compassionate.
Right.
So I started looking at her in that way, and it's like, huh.
Harry and Sarah Jane do disappear from the episode for a bit, so I think this woman, kind of replaced them, even for the audience.
To me, it's just kind of we're this late in the story, and they're introducing another new character.
I did think that.
But again, it
Yeah.
was just kind of like, but I like the fact that this is a woman who's leading the resistance. Good for you, writers. And speaking of Betten, a Thal woman, and the Doctor see the Daleks killing the Thals in the dome and run. She goes to organize a resistance, and he leaves to retrieve the time ring from the bunker. In the tunnels, he runs into Sarah, Harry, and Severin, who were unable to make it to the dome. Severin goes to help Betten, while the rest return to the bunker. Nider overhears Garmin talking about stopping Davros and lures him into a trap to get the names of those who oppose Davros. Nider knocks Garmin out and gives the list of names to Davros just as the Doctor, Sarah, and Harry emerge from the ventilation shaft tunnel.
Timing.
This part where the Doctor and Betten are going through the trenches, and then you see it's not sunset, but it's more colorful in the sky, and then you see the Dalek come across
Oh,
and
that's a
patrol.
great shot.
It's amazing.
That's a great shot.
I'm like, you really worked that set well.
Yeah.
You lit the background properly, and then the Dalek goes in, looks around, keeps going. I'm like, just great stuff.
You're emulating a lot of World War II movies with that shot.
And or World War I too,
Yeah.
because of the trenches.
Yeah.
And then we get another clam here.
I think there's clams on the
There's
ground,
clams,
but
yeah,
nobody
in the tunnels.
steps on them.
Yeah, I just noticed. I'm like, oh, watch out.
Yeah, these clams did not move.
Right.
These were the ones that
These
I
are
think were
earlier rejects.
These were the ones I was thinking were the static ones.
Yeah.
And Sarah says she'll never eat oysters again.
That's right. And they were they're I guess busy making Dalekanium.
All right.
It is interesting that the psychology of the people on both sides is very not mustache twisting. Like the actual Thals and the actual Kaleds are pretty real people.
Like both sides were making a lot of sense from their point of view.
This episode reminds me a bit of the Star Trek episode where they are having the year-long wars,
Oh, A Taste of Armageddon? I mean, ER7 and Ventikar's war for 500 years?
and it's all done by computer.
Yeah.
So they kill their own people to, state rather than having all the destruction. But this is kind of like that, where the war just never ends. It just escalates to keep the equilibrium between the two sides. It's like that's one thing you can agree with Davros. You got to end this.
Since the Doctor is from the future, Davros wants to know what the Daleks will do wrong in battles. With this knowledge, he can program the Daleks so they will never be defeated. The Doctor gives the answers to prevent Davros from torturing his companions. After hours of questions and torture, Sarah and Harry are taken to a detention center that also holds Garmin.
It explains why Sarah Jane in Journey's End is so shocked with Davros.
Yep.
He actually tortures her for
Yeah,
hours.
she's livid.
Doesn't he say that it's called the agony seat that they're in? I just find that funny.
That sounds like Mirror Mirror. Davros talks to the Doctor alone. The Doctor tries to reason with Davros and says the Daleks are evil. Davros says they are good and are programmed to survive, which means being the most powerful beings in the universe. The Doctor then poses a question. If Davros created a virus that would kill everything, would he use it? Davros, loving the idea of such power and complete control over life and death, says he would. Now knowing Davros is to be insane, the Doctor attacks and forces Davros to send a message to destroy the Daleks. But before the message is complete, Nyder comes in and knocks out the Doctor.
To be the most powerful in the universe, you have to be the top of the food chain. Everything else has to be, less
dead.
than you. Either dead or just insignificant. So that's the only way he sees them, as being able to survive.
And here's where that actor shines.
Oh yeah.
When he's holding his hand, and it's like, this guy's in a rubber mask, and you can watch him contemplate the power to kill everything in the universe, and then he's just kind of like, yes, I would.
And then he continues to push an imaginary button through the.
He breaks the container holding the virus in his fingers. He imagines that.
Right, yeah, but
This simple act kills everything in the universe. Would you do
right,
this
but
simple
then
act?
even later, but as it goes on, then it looks like he's pressing. He continues to press an imaginary button throughout the rest of the episode.
Yeah, he does.
And I took
Yeah,
that
he's tapping.
as he keeps thinking about it.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Well played.
I was wondering about the button pushing.
I think that's what it was.
Okay.
I think it's that he just keeps thinking about it, and it kind of strengthens his motive throughout even the rest of the episode to keep fighting for what he's trying to get.
It was the purest form of his obsession.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doctor.
So even when
Yeah.
things weren't going his way, he would start doing it more.
I love that. I
Yeah.
never thought of that, but now that makes, because I did wonder about the tapping too.
Did it look like? Because it sort of looked like he couldn't find the button.
Yeah, it did. It was like, you're getting awfully
But-
close to your power
But
button
they
there,
made
dude.
a point. They made a point to keep it in frame, and I think that's what it was. I think he just keeps imagining pushing that button to kill everything.
Sarah, Harry, and Garmin are freed by another scientist, Cavil. Nyder brings the Doctor to the detention center, but is chased off by Harry. Garmin and Cavil leave to tell the other Kaleds about Davros. Reunited, the Doctor and his companions search for a way to kill the Dalek mutants. They find explosives and set them inside the incubation room. The Doctor wonders if he has the right to commit genocide.
And this is the entire point of the series.
This is after those things try to kill him, though, right?
With the tentacles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like totally,
They're just babies.
Totally reminded me of like a face hugger from Alien.
Yeah. Right. And before we talk about the scene, I love the fact that the sound effects have like babies crying with grunts and groans and things. It's like, wow, that's love Daleks.
As much as I like this whole point of the story arc, do I have the right to commit genocide, especially thinking ahead about the Time War and destroying, that genocide. Even in its infancy stage, these things tried to kill him. It's obvious they need to be wiped out. And then he's like, but should I? I found the placement of that dilemma not to not be placed well.
But not only is he debating whether it's right to kill an entire race, he's also debating whether it's right to change history. Because he says, think of all the planets who are allied now because they had to ally against the Daleks.
You're right. You're
So
right.
he's talking about repercussions in addition to the genocide.
I remember thinking what I was just saying, and then as he said that,
Right.
I kind of, I got more
See,
of that.
I like the genocide debate that he's having, but I also like the time repercussion part too, because it's like you don't know what getting rid of the Daleks will do to the universe.
Right.
Somebody worse could have come along. So
And then how there were many allies have happened because of the common enemy.
but also I love the do I have the right to kill an entire race, because we're also saying that and how that affects him in our modern show. This is the scene. I mean, when they talk about Doctor Who, they play this scene.
But it also makes me think, kind of geek think ahead to this has been on his mind for this long. So when the Time War did happen, he had already been thinking about it. So it was even more of a decision that he made.
But okay, so if you want to do
Yeah.
that, you have to remember the 7th Doctor episode that we've also reviewed.
Remember that?
Which one is it?
Remembrance of the Daleks?
Remembrance
Remember
of the
that?
Daleks. In that episode, the Doctor sends a bomb to Skaro and it blows up Skaro, and he does it without even hesitating. He doesn't even even give it a second
Remember
thought.
that?
I do.
And there's no mention of genocide, but it is like the
That's
Doctor
what he
just
did.
blew up Skaro completely, and it's just like so he goes to both extremes. You know,
And
the
then he
fourth,
has-
it's
Right.
another incarnation, I guess maybe, but the fourth
Well-
Doctor is like, I don't know if I want to destroy an entire race. The seventh Doctor is like, yeah, I'll kill these Daleks. I'm fine with that.
And he makes the one Dalek commit suicide.
Yeah, yeah. The one Dalek that is left, he's just like, don't you need to die?
Well, maybe that's the thing. If you think about, he's had these different personalities that it took having opposing personalities to come to the decision that he did make in the Time War, and then why he feels so guilt-ridden by it.
Also, the decision that he made in the Time War was 1,000 times more personal.
Because he was destroying Time Lords as
Yeah,
well.
he was
as far as
destroying his
knew.
home, you know. And I don't know. It seems this in Genesis of the Daleks, they're trying to give depth and reality to the story, to the Doctor.
Yeah.
And I think they just carry that further with the modern show too. How would this affect him?
Right.
He would pause to think about this.
And I'm glad they had Sarah doing the counterpoint because Harry doesn't know him enough. Sarah's been through a regeneration, and she's been with the Daleks and said if it was a virus, if it was some kind of bug,
Right.
you wouldn't hesitate. And the Daleks don't have the emotion, don't have the morals, don't have the conscience to know
They
right
are.
or wrong.
They're just a
They're
germ.
just there, and you know what they're going to do. They're just going to kill. So
It's a great scene.
she had a good argument for it, going, I understand your dilemma. That doesn't apply to this situation.
Yeah.
and
Interesting.
then they kind of cheat to get out of it, but
Yeah.
We'll get
oh,
to that.
we've called a council meeting and there's going to be a vote. Oh, okay, that's how we deal with
Let
the
me
Daleks.
just leave these two open wires up
Yeah.
lying around.
Well, but he pulls them out.
he does. That's true.
He pulls
I
them
mean,
out.
it was the
so-
old-fashioned, because that's still around, of the explosive and then the whole detonator wire. If you haven't watched it, and are only hearing us. So he sticks the wires on both sides of the explosive putty. I'm not sure what it's.
Yeah,
it's
what
like-
else,
yeah.
C4.
C4.
Earlier
yeah.
days of before C4.
And so he just has to attach those two wires together to get the circuit so it will explode. And he's holding the two wires separate and apart.
And every time I watch it, I just want Sarah Jane to just reach up
Grab.
and clench her hand between the two wires and go, "We're done."
when she gets shocked.
But she'd be okay
yeah.
with getting rid of the Daleks.
Should be like worth it.
Yeah. Garmin and Cavill organize the other scientists and fight the followers of Davros. They win and Davros surrenders, but he insists that the military and scientists meet so he can plead his case for his experiments to continue. Then they can vote, and he will abide by their decision. He quietly tells Nader to recall the Daleks from the Thal Dome and let him know when they arrive.
I mean, the whole reason he's doing this is just to stall. So it's
Yeah, it's all
for him surrendering, and the actual scientists believe him. It just gets me sometimes. Why are you believing him? But he was their leader. He was somebody that they thought had morals, standing, believability.
And is it Garmin that wants him to still be their leader, like to accept
Yes.
their terms and to continue to lead them, but to lead them in the way that they want?
Right.
And some of them are even like, the Daleks are fine. You just have to keep them with a moral center.
Right.
So that was Garmin's
That was Garmin,
idea.
Yeah. So it is a very interesting predicament that they're in, because they aren't upset about the evolution or the travel things. They're just upset about that one little piece of it, which is
They're
interesting.
very moral people, Auburn.
They are. Well, the way that they are written, like everyone seems like very moral except for the Shade of War. Like whenever it's the other person, like whether it's the Thals against the Kaleds, it's like, well, we kill them all. But then when they believe they've won, I mean,
Party.
it is party, release the prisoners, like
And pardon all of them.
I mean, that's what happened in the U.S. Civil War, right? Like or the North
Yeah,
won, and you pardon
Yeah, but we didn't
everybody.
just release them. They had to make preparations so that they could control.
Yes.
And then people
You
were
didn't leave the prisoner standing in the middle of your
Yeah.
control room
Yeah.
as you walked
Yeah.
away.
Yes.
That was a little bit much in this episode.
But yes, and that is also a lot of it, which is one of the things that I dislike, is when smart people act stupid
Yeah.
just for the story. And yeah, this is definitely, your elite scientists trusting Davros to do right. When I guess to them, they, like I said,
They
they
wouldn't know any
wanted him
better.
to be the leader
Yeah.
again, so they still trust
And
him.
they weren't. They
So it
didn't
doesn't feel dumb. It feels like,
I
no,
guess not.
They're trying to get
Yeah.
to the solution.
And they didn't suspect that he was evil up until
Right.
just recently. Like, as their whole, for the last however many years, he was one of them and their leaders.
But now
Yeah.
he went too far.
And this is their first mutiny.
They
Like,
probably had a few meetings like, I don't know, guys, he looks like a witch. Oh, don't be discriminatory. Just because he looks like a witch doesn't mean he's a bad guy.
But he's gray.
no, he looks like my grandma.
Yeah, my grandma, she makes the best chicken chicken soup whenever I'm sick. She looks like that.
Then they're like, what's chicken? Witch! Garmin finds the doctor before he destroys the Daleks and informs him about the vote. At the meeting, Sarah finds the time ring along with the other confiscated items. Both Davros and Garmin plead their cases about the Daleks as Nider slips out. The doctor and his companions follow Nider and force him to get the tape that was made of the doctor telling of the future battles. They destroy the tape, but Nider traps them inside Davros's office.
High tech.
Yeah, tapes.
Yeah.
I'm like, if this were done today, we'd have like a disc or a...
Yeah, but I just justify it
Of
as
course.
saying they've run out of the technology.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, I think also, too, back then...
That was the high
was-
technology.
Yeah, that
That
was.
was
Of
high
course.
technology.
Yeah,
They
Of course,
couldn't even
absolutely. But you watch
anticipate-
it now and you go, this futuristic
Yeah.
society
Yeah.
is using...
Yeah.
It's
You
like
know.
Aliens versus Alien Prometheus or whatever, because we're using MS-DOS prompt as opposed to holographic
right.
screens now.
Yeah.
They're still using the flip over countdown.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I think it was at that point because there was the tape recorder, and then very soon after there was the clock, and I was like, "All right, But again, like that's advanced
high-tech.
technology. So
When we first see the Daleks, one of the things that Davros is impressed, or wants the scientists to be impressed by, is voice commands.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like
That's on our phones now.
Yeah, the level of technology that they were expecting and that we are expecting is worlds apart. But yeah, the voice commands was fun. Like turn left and go right just a little bit.
He's like,
And-
I've perfected voice control. I'm like, yay?
But this is where Garmin finds the doctor when he's still contemplating whether or not to kill the Dalek babies incubators. And he then pulls the whole detonator coil out so it's no longer attached to the explosives and throws it on the floor. So Garmin is saying, if we vote this way, we're destroying the incubator. So either way, they're going to be destroyed. And the doctor's like, well, this is not my decision.
Yeah.
That kind of threw me off, going, if that happens, everything's changing. Your whole assignment was to destroy the Daleks from being created, or find a way to alter them, and then the last bit was, or find something that we can use against him later on. But his dilemma of, should I destroy them, and what is going to happen with the other races that do band together to fight the Daleks, and how is that going to affect everything? It's like, well, the Time Lords have already thought about that, and this is their last chance. And for him to go, oh good, it's not my decision, it just sort of somehow, they're still going to be destroyed. All that whole decision is still there, and you just said, well, it's not mine to make now, and threw it aside. That's something that bugged me.
But I still see it as they're going to take a vote, and Garmin and his side are going to keep the Daleks, but with a conscience. So the Daleks will be altered, which was one of the mandates from the Time
Right.
Lord. So there will be a change affected. What that change will be, who knows? The Dalek with a conscience is actually kind of annoying, but let's not get into that.
I'm sorry.
It's all right.
But I still see it as he's affected the change. He didn't get rid of them.
Right.
He affected a change. Severin and Benton gather all the explosives they can. Benton begins to plant explosives to bring down the bunker on top of the Daleks. Severin wants to find the Doctor's group to get them out, but Benton says they can't wait for them to return. They have about 30 minutes to get back before the explosives are ready.
I did like this, where Benton's like, no, this is our mission. We have to stop this.
There's a
And it's
bigger
like,
issue.
And if you're trapped inside, you're trapped inside. But she has still compassion. I'm estimating it'll be about 30 minutes. We can't wait. I'll give you as much time as I can. So I like that she's very strong, but also showing the compassion at going, we want you to live. We need people after this.
And I see it as she's practical.
She's not narrow-minded, and this is my only mission.
Having stalled enough, the vote occurs, showing Davros who is with him and who is not. He opens the doors, letting the Daleks inside, and orders them to kill those that oppose him. The Doctor, Sarah, and Harry watch on a monitor as Garmin and the rest are slaughtered. Severin arrives and frees them from the locked office. The Doctor sends them to meet Benton, but he needs to return to the Dalek incubation room and destroy it. He is pinned down by Dalek fire, but when the Dalek rolls over the wires, it connects the circuit, destroying the Dalek and the incubator room.
Because he does go back, I think. They don't show it on
They
screen.
do. They show him coming out of the room.
Okay.
Yeah. He
So
resets
he resets it all.
He resets the...
Yeah.
And
Because
then-
all he has to do is push the wires in.
And from the monitor, he goes, there's no way of changing this now. The Daleks are not going to alter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he has to go back to the only way of trying to kill the
Yeah,
source.
his option's closed.
And this is the part where everyone dies and they all fall over each other in the mass Dalek execution. That's kind of funny. Like just the way that all the scientists together are falling over each other.
Oh, and then we have the butt pile up you mentioned earlier.
Yep. He makes his way back to the others just in time to get out before the bunker is buried beneath the debris. Trapped inside, Davros discovers that the Daleks have started the automatic assembly line, and he orders Nidar to turn it off. The Daleks kill Nidar and no longer recognize any authority over them. They kill Davros supporters that are left in the room and then turn on their creator, killing him? They will grow in number and eventually leave the bunker. The Doctor tells Sarah and Harry that he only slowed the Daleks down by about 1,000 years. They use the time ring port key to return to the TARDIS.
It is a port key.
It's a port key. They're spinning.
Oh yeah, the spinning.
Yeah.
With the whole Frankenstein moment. And I think they made Davros a little too whiny.
Yeah, he was whiny at the end.
Show me some pity. We don't know that word. Because you took it out of them.
And then his reaching for the button seemed very like, okay, you could have done that in a better take.
It's a big red button. Now he likes the big red buttons
What
like
did
the
it say on
Doctor
the
does.
button? It said...
It said, push me.
That was easy.
But I think it actually said total destruction.
Yeah.
Earlier we mentioned, has the Doctor been sent on missions by Time Lords? And he has in Colony in Space and the Mutants.
Not the Mutos.
Nope.
Which Doctor?
That's derogatory.
Do you know?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
The Doctor did try to put hope on the end of this, saying even though the Daleks are coming back, that there will be good still coming into the universe.
They did want to end it on a complete downer.
Which is also different than modern Who.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of jarring, I thought, that we'd go through this whole serial and it's like, okay, you blow up that room, you destroy the Daleks. You blow up that room, you destroy the Daleks. He blows up the room and says, well, that'll slow him down for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
It's like, okay. They suddenly realize they have to continue writing the show.
Remember when we did the Dalek episode with the Ninth Doctor, Christopher Eccleston? We said that he mentions and he alludes to Davros, but not names him.
Yeah.
And so that's where that comes from. And then earlier, we also mentioned that the TARDIS does not appear in this episode. And this did not happen again until midnight in 2008.
With David Tennant.
The other televised stories or episodes that don't appear, that do not have the TARDIS appear, are Mission to the Unknown, Doctor Who and the Silurians, The Mind of Evil, The Demons, The Sea Devils, The Centauran Experiment, and The Lie of the Land.
I find it interesting. The next episode, they arrive back in Ark in Space, but it's at a different time, thousands of years before they were there in the Ark in Space episodes.
Oh.
I went on to watch the next episode that happened after this.
What's it called? What's it called?
Revenge of the Cybermen? Is that right?
Oh yeah, it's a Cybermen episode.
And they go back to that Ark?
Yeah, they go back to that
Yeah.
space station.
Oh, wow.
But that's what they were
but it's
transporting
10,000
up
years
to at the
earlier.
beginning.
Because that's where they left the TARDIS?
TARDIS.
Oh,
Yeah.
now I want to watch it.
And that reminds me of this revisionist, I guess, state of the genesis of the Daleks, because when we first saw the Daleks, it was in the first Doctor's second serial, the Daleks, where their origin is not like this. And so this is just it's
Oh, really?
But
This is very much a retro
Yeah.
changing their origin.
Huh.
but this is the one that's stuck in canon with among the
Okay.
fans and the writers, I guess, too, because Davros has appeared since then. And this Genesis of the Daleks marks the only on-screen appearance of the Kaleds other than Davros.
This is Thals.
It's just Kaleds.
Oh, Kaleds?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because after that, they're all Daleks.
Oh, that's
And
right.
They're not Kaleds.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, and another behind-the-scenes trivia is that Michael Wisher, who plays Davros, he wore a kilt because in that position he had to sit in, it was too much. He wanted to be free, and it wasn't just because it wasn't for any like weird reasons other than like he needs to move around.
Is that why he had his other hand down?
I just said it wasn't for any weird reasons.
Well, it makes sense. I mean,
Is there a reason that his face is like eyeless and the one other than to make it look more Dalek?
I don't remember.
They don't
Okay.
any reason why. That's why I thought, well, maybe he's just that old where
Yeah.
something happened, or he's, even though he's a scientist, maybe something happened in the war
Okay.
that caused him that. So
yeah,
Okay.
I bet you we'll get a story about that.
Yeah, but yeah, how I took it is that he was just lost his eyesight, and that's why he has the third eye, so that he can visually see something. But then later on,
We don't talk about that. That was a terrible plot point that happened in that episode.
but then later on when he appears in season 4, which is why we're doing this, because this is his first appearance in the classic series to tie in with his first appearance in the modern series, he shows that he gave part of his body to the new Daleks that he's creating. So I just kind of.
right.
I kind of took it both, like you could do that too, where he's giving parts of his body to create these creatures of his.
yeah, I don't see that at this point.
I know, I'm
think
just
that
saying
was-
that's just
right.
my thoughts.
Oh, no. Okay.
Tom Baker was Doctor Who to me when I was a kid. I never watched any of it.
Totally.
But I didn't know about any of it, so I really feel like I'm getting to know it.
I mean, me too, because that's what I saw. Images. And
Right.
That wraps up Genesis of the Daleks. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time when the future becomes the present.
You've just listened to an episode of Who Knew?
Our wonderful theme music is by Michael Grady.
Find him on Facebook at The Universe Explodes.
All our episodes are engineered by Allburn.
You can also find this show in several places.
Follow us on Twitter at Who Knew Podcast.
Subscribe, review, and listen to us on iTunes and Stitcher.
Or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Who Knew Podcast.
Comment on our Facebook page.
Please leave comments, reviews, and click like to help support Who Knew Podcast.
Also listen to us on your Amazon Echo by enabling a podcast skill.
All of our episodes are on whoknewpodcast.com.
This podcast is inspired by Doctor Who.
The longest running sci-fi show in history.
And especially the revival spearheaded by Russell T. Davis.
Thanks to Russell,
Sidney Newman,
Verity Lambert,
Ron Grainer,
And all those involved in the adventures of our favorite Time Lord.
Your work continues to inspire and entertain. All right, let's go.
well, you need to stop because I can hear that.
Pieces are dropping.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba.
PBS.
we had lots
But Sesame Street's in New York. I know how to get there.
Can you tell me how?
It's a long time ago.
Okay.
Thank you for appreciating my Archie Bunker joke.
It was very funny.
I got it too, but I was like, are we moving on? We're not
No,
acknowledging
you don't
this?
have to acknowledge. It's like Kalaba.
Sorry.
Blah-blah-blah-blah. In the tunnels, he runs into Saria. I did it again. Screw it. You can cut this.
That's right. So you make food and then you both ends of the spectrum there.
So you're going to open up the Davros Bakery
Yeah. Really big.
and plumbing service?
Yeah. What goes in eventually comes out.
Sorry, we take care of both ends.
Time and space. Yeah.
Anything else?
That is all.